Good morning, Psych Honors students. How are you all doing? It is Thursday morning, April 30th. Excuse me, last day of April. Been a cold, rainy, somewhat depressing month with everything that's going on. So I guess it's fitting that it is cold and rainy today as we get ushered into May. Hopefully, better things are to come in terms of weather and rain and being able to get out of our houses sometime soon. But there seems to be some more positive news out there as of yesterday in terms of different drugs that might be working in antiviral treatments, as well as there's apparently something going on at Oxford University in London where they believe that they could have a vaccine ready as early as September because they had been working on an earlier coronavirus, I think a year or two ago, and working on a vaccine for it. So they seem to be a little bit ahead of where some of the other countries and lab scientists are. So that is a positive. I hope you're all doing well. Here is the plan for us the rest of the way. We are going to do, excuse me, lecture ed puzzle today and tomorrow. I'll try to do a lighter one for Friday. Then we'll go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, wrap up the social psych unit. And I would like to test this on Thursday. Reason being that my grades are due on Monday, and that is going to be an absolute deadline because you guys are seniors and they need to prepare everything for graduation. So I don't really want to do it on Friday because if somebody has some sort of technical difficulty or inability to take it, then there's going to be an issue with getting the final grade done. So that's the plan. Let's shoot to wrap this thing up by Wednesday. We'll sprinkle some Google Meets in as well so we can review and check in on each other. And we'll go test Thursday and Friday, which will be the last day of senior year. We will honor the fact that really none of you do anything on the last day of senior year because I think by C period, you're being dismissed in the student center and everybody goes home from there. So let's keep in that spirit and give next Friday as a kind of off day. So today we're going to be talking about attraction, how we are drawn to each other in various situations and various environments, if you will, in or aspects of our lives. And then we're going to get into attitude and persuasion. Remember, the basis of social psychology is how we relate to one another as individuals within a group setting. So a group can be two people, a group can be, 2002 people. So attraction, we're talking about interpersonal relationships and how we pick those that we're going to date and potentially marry and potentially have children with. And, how does attraction work? Is there an evolutionary component to it? Is it genetics? Is it behavior? Is it the world around us that shapes us? And of course, like everything in psych, it's going to be a combination of both. So first up, excuse me, is the reward theory of attraction. Now, we would have been talking a lot more about reward had we done the learning unit, but we, kind of skipped around it because we wanted to do abnormal psych and social psych rather than learning. Learning is operant conditioning and classical conditioning and Pavlov dogs and, we are reinforced to do behaviors or exhibit behaviors that bring us rewards, and we are negatively reinforced to avoid punishment. All right. So obviously, that's going to play into kind of the trial and error situation that is dating and attraction. Think about it. How many people really marry the first person that they are attracted to or that they wind up dating? I know that there are high school sweethearts, but it's not a very common thing. You could look at dating and attraction as sort of a trial and error to see what it is, what works for you. And remember, we are not just talking about physical attraction here. There is emotional attraction. There is intelligence or cognitive attraction. It isn't just about the way that somebody looks. It's going to be about a lot more than that, whether you know it or not. I mean, the eyes may see one thing, but the brain and the heart are definitely processing quite some, definitely some other factors when deciding who your, mate or partner or spouse or whatever you want to call it is going to be. So just a straight up definition, the theory that says we like those who give us maximum reward or benefit at minimum cost. And a bunch of these theories sound kind of similar. They're all a little play on each other. So the matching hypothesis, the value expectancy, the cost benefit, it's all going to have that component that we want to get more out of the relationship than is going to cost us. And that is just, that's just nature. So according to this theory, attraction is a form of social learning. So if you are a introverted person and at some point in your life you get attracted and wind up dating an extroverted person, and there's a clash there between two different, perspectives and way of thinking and way of acting in the world, that relationship might not go very well, and you may learn through that the costs of the dating being with an extroverted person severely outweighed the benefits or the rewards of being with that person just on the basis of physical attraction. Okay, so psychologists have identified 4 especially strong sources of reward that predict this interpersonal attraction. So the first is going to be proximity. The idea is that people will work harder to make friends with those to whom they are closest with physically. So right there, right, you're more likely to date somebody at St. Anthony's High School than you are from a different high school simply for the fact that you are around them. Okay. I can't tell you how many, like in my situation, a friend of mine's girlfriend introduced me to my wife, and then my wife and me introduced her to a different friend of mine that she wound up marrying, all because we knew each other and we were close to each other and we were hanging out with each other. So proximity is just sensible, right? You're looking at what is the closest to you, what is around you on a daily basis. How many of our spouses wind up coming from either high school or from college or from the workplace or from our group of friends or from a person in our group of friends that brings another person into the circle, and that winds up being, who you date and who you wind up marrying. Similarity. People usually find it more rewarding to have a relationship with someone who shares the same attitudes, interests, values, and experiences as they do. Now, you've probably heard the statement that opposites attract. I think it's a cliche to describe when people look at a relationship and they see people that are very, very different. I guess the only explanation is to come up with that cliche, well, opposites attract. But I don't really think that, I'm not saying it's not possible, but I don't really think that it's, long term or long standing to be able to be with somebody that is completely opposite than you. Now, you can have different temperament, you can have some different feelings, you can have some different behaviors, but at the core, all right, the attitudes, the interests, the values, and the experiences, if that comes into constant clash with the other person, it's going to be really, really hard to remain attracted to them. And I think that makes sense. So, I mean, on the surface, like my wife and myself are very, very different. But when push comes to shove, when things come down to it, all right, we hold many of the same attitudes, interests, values, and what we think are good experiences as each other. And that's what bonds us. That's what keeps us together. All right, now self-disclosure. It takes time to develop the trust necessary to share intimate details about oneself. Generally, we want to spend time around those who know us best. And that is what marriage is. Long-term dating, long-term partnership, long-term relationship is built on trust. Without trust, what is the point? And as you go, you learn each other inside and out. You start to know them, not as well as they know themselves, but close to as well as they know themselves. You are a partner with them. It isn't just about, again, it's not just about sexual attraction or having children. It's about a connection. It's about a friendship. It's about a partnership that's going to last that you want to last a long time. Because, you see older people, walking on the beach holding hands. They've been together for 30, 40, 50 years. Just think about the commitment level that takes, the sharing, the caring, the sharing of the burden, the connectivity as friends that must entail, the intimacy there in knowing somebody so well that you are their soulmate. All right, and obviously physical attractiveness, yes, it is vain, okay, and all of the horrible things about how we judge each other, but we're doing it whether you like it or not. Your eyes are seeking out what you want, and that's just human nature. but it is reality. People are generally attracted to those who are more physically attractive. Um, Average is attractive, beautiful is unapproachable. So when men and women are out at a party somewhere, I mean, you are looking to see what it is that looks good to you, what you think is in your league, what you think is not in your league. And then you're determining a course of action as to go and start a conversation or let that person know that you are interested in a relationship. Now, the social exchange theory, so this is actually a theory in economics about cost benefit analysis. So, do the benefits outweigh the costs? Then that's something that I want to be involved in. Do the costs outweigh the benefits? Maybe for a time I want to be involved in that, but over time it's not long lasting. All right, and that just makes sense. And that's any sort of business venture as well. Now, and other decisions as well. So, if you think about cost benefit analysis, right? Let's say you get into Princeton and you get into, I don't know, Stony Brook. Okay. Well, let's make it a little different. Let's say you get into Fordham and you get into Stony Brook. All right. Now Fordham's got the private school look. It's got the fancy buildings, the gates. It's got the beautiful library. It's got some famous alumni. They're touting their connections into Manhattan, into Wall Street, into law school, into medical school, into all these connections, but it's going to cost you $70,000 a year. Okay, they're not going to give you any money at all, but you got in, you can go, you can be part of the class. So you sit down and you start to create this kind of pro-con list. On the other side, you have Stony Brook, good school, buildings aren't as nice. Maybe you didn't want, Long Island versus New York City. You're closer to your parents. It's not really what you envisioned. It's not really what you wanted. It's not the campus that you thought you would be at. Okay, but the cost of the cost of that school could be $20,000. So you're going to sit there and you're going to say, okay, do the benefits of going to Fordham outweigh the cost? If yes, you might go. If no, you might choose Stony Brook. So cost benefit analysis can also be applied to relationships. The benefits can be tangible or intangible, physical or psychological, meaning tangible in terms of the things that I can hold in my hands. So in terms of our Stony Brook versus Fordham, the tangible benefits, okay, would be the diploma. What is the diploma worth? The intangibles would be, how does it make me feel to go to that school? How does it make me feel to go to this school? Tangible would be the salary that each job that I got out of each school would produce. Intangible, again, would be those intrinsic rewards. Was I challenged by different professors? Did I meet groups of friends at one school over the other that steered me in different directions? Okay, so all that really matters is the person perceives the benefits to be greater than the cost. And it kind of makes it sound a little shady that you're only in the relationship because you get more than you give. That doesn't necessarily need to be true. You just need to feel that it's true. And if each person feels that it's true, what does it really matter? Because a relationship is sacrifice, right? You're in a group, so you're giving up some of your individuality for the betterment of the whole, of the team, of the partnership. So that's a cost to you to give up some of your individuality, right? I like to leave my socks on the floor when I go to bed. That makes my wife furious. To me, it's no big deal. But I, every night, take my socks off and put them in the hamper because that is what she wants. Now, we will never agree on why it is important to put socks in a hamper, but because she wants it and she does more cleaning of the house than I do, and I respect her, I'm willing to, spend that time, that cost, that giving up of individuality in order to give her what it is she wants. Now, I know that's a small thing, but it is part of this overall cost-benefit analysis of what we're giving versus what we're getting. And this is just some of the components this is sort of a diagram or model of the social exchange theory and the cost benefit. And these are the different things that are weighing and the different outcomes that can actually take place. And this is just it in a picture form. So according to the social exchange theory, humans weigh the costs against the benefits while forming the relationship. So it's a scale, up and down, benefits versus costs, and which weigh more than the other. So the matching hypothesis is very similar, a prediction that most people will find friends and mates that are perceived to be about their same level of attractiveness. And I really think that is true. Um, it's kind of crazy. Like my wife and I have this little theory that the more you see a couple together, we call them brother sister couples because they start to look alike. Now, obviously, they're not related to each other, but the more, even at the beginning, if we felt like they looked different, over time, the more you see them, they just seem to match more. They just seem to be looking alike more. They're living together, they're affecting one another. So we kind of, and we always remark that people probably look at us the same way. And then I say, God help you for looking like me. But it's just a little joke that we have. So perceived to be about their same level of attractiveness. Now, I'll be a crass boy and say, men are, whether they know it or not, they're measuring up the females that they might be interested in, and they're measuring them. They're saying, let's see, this one I have a shot with, this one I don't. This one's way out of my league. This one is lower than my league. Where do I want to go? And I understand that that's artificial, but we're doing it, and women are doing it as well. Okay. You could say it's shameful. You could say it's vain. It definitely is. But again, the eyes are going to seek out what the eyes want to seek. It doesn't mean that that's the person that you're going to end up with, but because there is so much more, like we've spoken about going into this attraction theory. But this is evolutionary, right? This is pure instinct, impulsivity, whatever you want to call it. So the expectancy value theory, again, a lot of these things have the same sort of flavor to it. So the theory that people decide to pursue a relationship by weighing the potential value of the relationship against their chances of succeeding in that relationship. So I would assume that when you're your age, the value of it is and the chance of it succeeding. I'd imagine that most of you know that the value might be there for a time, but the chances of it succeeding are not very good. I mean, if you think about most high school relationships, and from what I understand, you guys are less in longer term relationships than people were during my generation. Um, I guess culture is a little bit different now. Things are a bit more fast moving. You don't have as many, like, a few of my friends dated their girlfriends for like, 3 years in high school. I don't really know if that is as common as it once was. I have heard that it is not. Um, so what value are you getting out of it against the chances of succeeding in that relationship? So is this thing going to last? And then what is the yes or no? And then what is the effect of that on the potential value of the relationship? All right. So we try to have relationships with the most attractive people we think will probably like us in return while minimizing the risk of failure. And I have some single friends, and it is comical because some of them have no fear of rejection. They'll talk to whoever they want to talk to, whether they be at their level, above their level, even below their level, and the rejection doesn't bother them. They just look at it as a numbers game. It's like the more women that I speak to and ask out, the more chances I'll get at having a date or having a hangout. And then I have other friends who are terrified to talk to women who are fearful of that rejection, and they kind of shy away from it. So it's less of that. There's attraction, but the social fear of the rejection kind of pushes them away from seeking it out. So there are exceptions to the rule. Okay. Uh, Although the reward theory of attraction seems to make sense, it fails to explain a few situations. A woman in an abusive relationship, okay, in terms of the cost benefit analysis or the social exchange theory, um, what are we getting out of this? Like, and then if you look at the reward, the four pillars of the reward theory of attraction, the self disclosure part, the trust part, okay, if you can't trust your partner not to hurt you in a stressful situation, how can you still be attracted to them? And if obviously the cost of being abused, I would imagine, at least psychologically and physically, outweighs the rewards of the relationship, why would that person stay in the relationship? Okay. And if you look at in terms of joining a frat or hazing, we're attracted to frats for the group dynamic, for the belongingness, right? So the proximity is that we're on the same college campus and some of our friends might be joining it. The similarity is that people like us are in the fraternity, And the self disclosure is that we're forming trusting friendships and relationships with those who are in our fraternities. So all of those is what attracts us to, and even a physical attraction, right? I mean, look at the frat as the house itself, um, or the things that it can bring you after college in terms of connections. So that is why we are attracted to frats. But then when the hazing begins, I mean, that goes against everything that we believe in. I mean, we're basically allowing people to abuse us all because of this other attractive benefits that we perceive. How far will we go? Now, I joined a fraternity at Gettysburg, and I'll describe the hazing that we endured for 12 weeks and pledging in general. They say it's the most fun that you never want to have again. So when I look back on it now, I laugh at the stupid things that I did and allowed other people to do to me, just to belong to something. And I don't regret it. And you know, I loved being part of the fraternity. If I went back, I would do it again. But now that I'm older and I'm a little hopefully more wiser, I look at it and I say, you know, what was wrong with you? Like, why would you have abandoned your dignity for those 12 weeks to allow other people to treat you that way, all to belong to something? Now, do I think that I'm any different today for it? Probably not. I think I would have been just as fine had I not joined a fraternity. But it was real conformity and group dynamic at play. I mean, my friends were doing it. We played football together. We joined the same fraternity. It's what you did. It's how you fit in. It was you had to basically sacrifice your dignity to join that group. That's how important it was for us to join that group. And we abandoned our principles and our morals in order to do it. All right, so let's move into attitude. Now, there's three components of attitude: affective, behavior, and cognitive. So obviously they call it the ABCs of attitude. But let's define it first. And we hear this word used in so many different contexts that it's kind of tough to follow. So it's a tendency to respond positively or negatively to a certain idea, person, object, or situation. Now, is it nature or is it nurture? Now, we are definitely predisposed to certain attitudes, okay? Whether it be positive or negative or something more specific, but um, the environmental or the nurture component definitely helps express those genetic predispositions and really does shape our attitudes. If we're around people that are more negative, we can become more negative and vice versa. And if you think about it, right, people just have a general attitude or predisposition, okay? And that again is created both through genetics and through their environment, but it can be changed, but it is difficult. They are deeply ingrained in our psyche. Okay, so affective is the emotional component or how we feel. The behavioral is the action that we're going to take in regard to the person, object, or situation. And the cognitive is the thought or the belief about the focus of the attitude. So let us check out some examples here.
Take a look at two sentences I've written that utilize these three components of attitude. So right here in the first sentence, I write, I love yoga because I get to do meditation and I believe it helps me relax, so I will go to class each week. So in looking at this sentence, what do you think is the affective or emotional component? Right here, I love yoga. Love is a feeling, an emotion. What about the behavioral component? Exactly. If you said I will go to class each week, then you are right. Going to class is a behavior. It's an action. And that's going to form your attitude towards yoga. What about the last one, the cognitive component? I believe. That should indicate belief or cognition. I believe it will help me relax. It's a thought that maybe you also have some prior knowledge that's going to help you shape that attitude. All right, on to the next one. What about the second sentence? I am frightful of roller coasters and believe they are stupid, so I will be on the carousel at the park. What's the affective component here? Once again, I am frightful of roller coasters. First part of the sentence. Fright is an emotion. It's a fear. What about the behavioral component? Be. The word be should help you see that it's a behavior, it's an action. I will be on the carousel at the park. Because you're afraid of roller coasters, you're not going to be on the roller coaster, you're going to be somewhere else. It's going to shape your attitude. And the last part, what about the cognitive part? Believe is the magic word. I believe they're stupid. I believe roller coasters are stupid. Maybe you have some knowledge. It's a belief. That is a cognitive component of attitude.
Okay, so that was just some examples of how we break out this affective behavior and cognitive components of attitude. And here it is again in the form of country music. So you like country music because it's fun and uplifting. You buy country music. I mean, MP3, you can see the date on this PowerPoint, but you buy country music, you attend country music concerts, you listen to country music stations. Those are your actions. And then your thought is you like country music is better. You think that it's better than any other music that you have heard. And the three of them, they kind of reinforce each other. And that's what this says. So in our behavior is our internal attitudes and our external influences. And this is the nature-nurture debate in a nutshell, right? Your internal attitudes, you are predisposed, right, genetically to certain attitudes. Doesn't mean that they're going to be expressed, but they are there genetically, evolutionarily, however you want to look at it. That affects your behavior. External influences are also going to affect your behavior and then in turn or could affect your internal attitudes. All right. Now, it's kind of funny because I remember a poster in the assistant principal's office at John F. Kennedy Middle School in Bethpage to 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And it said, a bad attitude is like a flat tire. You can't go anywhere until you change it. And my wife just pointed and laughed at me because we both will talk about that poster since we both went to the same middle school. So I decided to include some positivity here, like in the form of wall posters. So attitude is a little thing that makes a big difference. You will, I mean, go into any school in America and you're going to see, and many classrooms in America, and you are going to see posters like this. It really is true. Attitude is so important. And just whether you are positive or negative in general about your worldview can really, really shape your life. And there are people with negative attitudes that, you know, just really, really struggle as a result of that negative way of thinking all the time, kind of pulling them down. Here's another little one with the different kinds of attitudes in the form of emojis and social media tags. So social thinking, attitudes follow behavior, cooperative actions feed mutual liking. So this is now applying attitudes into a group or a team context. So attitudes come together on a team. Okay, those attitudes then help form behavior, and then the cooperative actions of the group feed the mutual liking. So it isn't that different attitudes can't work together. It's sort of like when those different attitudes come together, they play off each other. They help strike a balance. And if that creates a favorable outcome in the form of, you know, meeting a team goal or a group outcome or desire, then that can sort of reinforce each other. So you see this kind of circular, how the actions reinforce the attitudes and the attitudes create the actions, and round we go into hopefully, you know, a positive group dynamic. So this is kind of where it fits into the overall social thinking. And last but not least for today is persuasion. Now, those of you that had me for U.S. history, you know that I am very into the powers of persuasion. I find it fascinating that some people are better than others at changing a person's attitude, okay, by explaining to them why they shouldn't think the way they think about or feel the way they feel about something, but they should actually feel the way you feel or a different way. So we see this in politics. We see this in buying and selling of things all the time. And we see this in our social lives. I mean, think about the last time you wanted to go to this party, your friend said no, and you sold them on the idea. You gave them all of the benefits to why they should want to go and why they should think the way that you think. So we're persuading people all day, every day. We could persuade ourselves into something. Now, I tackle this in the form of persuasive writing because I think it builds good communicative skills. And ultimately, in my mind, the people that are the best at persuasion are oftentimes the most successful. Okay? Just think about it. When you fill out an application to come to St. Anthony's High School, what are you doing? They they're looking for students, yes, but they're also looking for a reason to deny a student. So you are trying to persuade them to let you into your school, and you're making your case. You are presenting who you are and what you believe. Same as in getting into college, same as in a job interview, same as in getting into a relationship, same as in creating a business venture for yourself or selling your product, selling your ideas. All right. And I don't mean to cheapen these concepts by saying the word, well, you're selling it, but that's what we're doing. We're trying to convince people of things all day, every day. So let's define persuasion: the process by which one person tries to change the belief, opinion, position, or course of action of another through argument, pleading, or explanation. Now, there are many different tools, persuasive tools, that we can use when trying to change the person's belief, opinion, or position. Is it easy? No. And does it depend on who the person is and whether they are changeable? Yes. But the more compelling our argument can be, the more chance we have at actually persuading them. Okay. Now, when I start with my junior US kids every year, I start with this example. What is the thing that you are going to, now remember, they're 16 going on 17. So I say, what is the thing that you are going to want your parents to give you and buy you that they absolutely do not want you to have? And a kid usually gets it right away. They say the car. Okay. What would be their reasons for not wanting to buy you a car? Well, it's expensive. It's unsafe. Okay. So those are the very tangible, logical things. And how do you combat those points? Okay. Well, if somebody says that something is too expensive, you might say, well, I'll get a job to help to pay for it, whether it be the car payment or the insurance, but I will help support the financial burden that is this car. Okay. And then it's unsafe. And there's a couple of different ways that you can, fly with this. You could bring out statistics on how safe auto driving actually is. You could bring it up in the light of the car that I really want, that's this expensive, has these extra safety features. But to go the more emotional route, you could say something like, but mom or dad, I've watched you drive for all these years. You've helped teach me how to drive. Look at how safe you are. How could I possibly be an unsafe driver? And that's going to raise an eyebrow from your parents, because they kind of know that you're playing them a little bit and you're appealing to their emotion, but they also like to hear that they were a good model of safe driving and that you would be the same way. Because ultimately, at their core, they understand they can't keep you, tied to the nest forever. Eventually, you're going to go. So if it isn't your late junior year when you turn 17, it's either going to be your senior year or beyond. And if you look at the bigger component here, the emotional component, because emotion is often what we need to use to persuade people. Logic and facts only goes so far, but emotion really, really pushes it. So if you start to drive, you don't need your parents as much. And that is a growing trend as a child gets older. You go from needing everything from them from when you were born to being more self-sufficient as you are 10 and 12 and 14. A 15-year-old can cook for themselves. They can make their own lunch. They can do their own laundry. They can clean a bathroom. They can dress themselves. They can pick out their own clothes. They can do every single thing. They don't need their parent as much, but they still do. They still need them to drive them everywhere. And that's sort of a hang on from parents, as much as they might be frustrated of all the driving that they have to do. That's time they get to spend with you. Okay. And once you are driving by yourself, that's it. You're gone. You've officially left the nest. And we may have talked about this, but think about the feeling of the first time that you are in a car all by yourself. I mean, it is one of the most liberating things that you've ever probably felt at that point in your life. Nobody knows where you're going. Nobody knows what you're doing. You are a free bird ready to fly. Okay. It's similar to the idea of being dropped off at college for the first time and saying, wait a second, I don't have to answer to my parents anymore. They're going to be 4 hours away. All right. So there's the central route of persuasion, focusing on facts and the content of the message in order to convince the listener. So that would be where the driving statistics come in and the fact that you're going to get a job to help pay for it, and relying on the peripheral factors like the personality of the speaker or how the message was delivered. So how we come across, how passionate are we? How convincing are we? What's our body language? What's our mannerisms? How aggressive are we in pursuing it? That can all link to the idea that we want it more than they might think, or we impress them by showing a different side of ourselves because we really want to get our way and change their attitude here, or their belief or their opinion on the fact that you shouldn't get a car. Okay, so I always tell my students it's logos, pathos, and ethos, and that those are the Greek methods of persuasion. So logos is logic; it's based on logic and facts. Pathos is pathology; it's based on emotion and how we feel. And ethos is the general aura that we give off. Are we an expert? Are we in command of what our argument actually is? All three of those are necessary when persuading. I've always felt that pathos and ethos are more important. Facts are easy, especially in the day of Google. You can bring up, charts and graphs and facts and figures very, very simply in terms of what you want. But we are in a world of those numbers, and do they really change our mind, or does somebody getting up there and their voice trembling, or the mannerisms, their energy, okay, or the fact that they challenge the way that I feel emotionally about a topic, are those the more important parts of persuasion? Okay, that was a little longer than I had hoped. I hope you're all doing well. We'll do another one of these tomorrow for Friday, and I will put all of this in Google Classroom so we know in writing what our plan is. Hope you guys are well. Take care.